So he says, I have a question for Bob. How can you tell by the brood how old a queen is?
I don't, well, that's initially you can't. I mean, if it's a real bad brood pattern, it might make you suspicious that the queen is older, but you can have a queen that's a year or two old still doing a really good job. Now, in our last video, we ran across a queen that was brand new, had only just been laying for a few weeks, and that was very obvious that she was a young queen because the brood pattern was obviously new. There was no older brood. It was all the pattern was extremely concise. That's kind of a dead ringer for a newer queen that has just gotten going. But after a few months, you don't even have that. So it's the brood pattern's not a good way to tell unless she's really shot. Then it'll really look bad. One of the main reasons we replace queens every year has to do with what she's going to do in the future.
That's right.
If you go into the winter with a queen from the previous year, the odds of her making it into her third year are noticeably lower than a year from the current, or than a queen from the current year. And
Yeah.
so we want a good queen that's going to head a colony that will overwinter well and be pretty vibrant in the spring, so we can make splits and packages or whatever, make other colonies, or simply make a good honey crop. Queens become middle-aged at about a year and a half old. Yeah, they can do a decent job up to 2 years old, and even into their third year, but they'll do much better if they're a year and a half old or less. If a queen's doing a good job at 2 years, she was probably doing a little better at 1 year. And that I know that year and a half is kind of a weird number, but the way I'm looking at it is that if a queen has gone through 2 of the spring peak periods, then she's most likely a year and a half old or older. I guess you could be a year and a quarter if you want to really get, really close. But once she's gone through 2 spring buildup periods, at that point, she will begin to decline, maybe subtly, maybe slightly, but the slide has already begun.
Well, we got a question here from our old friend Russell Koopman. I'm sure you recognize his name. He was at Half Laughing. And he asked, Bob, I see that you use nukes to requeen hives. Is that the safest way? And do you have to use newspaper?
Well, if you do use first off, it is the best way or the safest way if you have the time and the wherewithal and the equipment to do it that way. It's pretty safe if in a honey flow time you can just about do anything you want and be successful. In a dearth period, when robbing may be happening and things like that, the newspaper way is probably the safest way. Newspaper between 2 boxes, kill the queen below, and introduce the nuke by having her in a box up above with newspaper in between them. That's the safest way. Right now, we're not doing anything special because we have a little nectar coming in, and the bees just pretty much accept a nuke about any way you give it to them.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of things you can. I hear a lot about the newspaper combine. A lot of times, if you're going to do a nuke, or if you're going to combine a house, if there may be a weak hive, one hive doesn't have a queen, one hive has a queen, you might want to combine them. I hear a lot about the newspaper. And I've never tried it. I've never been in that situation, but whenever I am in that situation, I'm definitely gonna try it and see. I hear a lot of times people don't do it. There's just a lot of different debate on it.
Well, a lot of times, I'll be real honest. We don't do newspaper at all. What we tend to do, although I think it's the safest way, we don't go that far. A lot of times, if we're combining a nuke or 2 boxes together, one with a queen and one without, we'll splash some sugar syrup around on the top bars of the lower box and really give the bees a job to do. We make enough of a mess to where it's going to take several minutes for them to clean it up, and they become gorged. And we have really good success combining colonies by just splashing sugar syrup around a little bit in such a way that it doesn't cause robbing. It has to be inside the box, not outside.